Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans. I'm so jacked for this video, man. It's the annual. Oh, wait, one more time. It's the annual. Too early Chargers record prediction video where I take all the moves that the Chargers have made this offseason. You got the draft, you got free agency, and we got camps and stuff going on now. We try to make sense of it as to how it's going to affect the actual season. We're going to go game by game predicting how I think the Chargers are going to look this year. It's pretty fun, man. I mean, who's excited for the kickoff already? It's going to be a long offseason. It's been a long offseason. I'm so excited to see Amari and Hampton get to work. We got Mekhi Becton, who a lot of people forget sometimes. I'm excited to see him affect the run game. We got some nice pieces on defense. It's going to be a good time, man. This is one of my favorite videos to do every year. It takes a crap ton of time because of all the graphics we got to make, but definitely worth it. You guys let me know. Follow along in the comment section. Some of the things you agree with, disagree with. I'm going to try and remain, as little objective as I can, trying to predict what's actually going to happen here. But I think the Chargers are in a good place. Year 2 of Jim Harbaugh. Historically have been really good seasons for his football squads. Let's get into it, man. Before we do, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Newcomers, take advantage of the offer on screen. It's a great way to support my platform while having some fun along the way. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history.
The Directors, way too early Chargers record prediction video 2025. Let's get into it, baby. Super exciting stuff, man. Okay, this is going to be a nice video to also get to know the squads, all the teams that we're going to be playing. Everybody changes every year, right? Get some additions via free agency and the draft. So we're going to go team by team. I'll tell you guys some of their key additions, key losses as well. Some teams taking some pretty heavy losses this season. And key players to keep in mind for all of these matchups and just what I think of the schedule overall. It's a tougher year. I'm not going to lie. The Chargers 11-6 last season off the back of what we're going to say is a pretty decently easy schedule. Different narrative in 2025. This is a tough football schedule. Really going to help the Chargers in some ways get ready for the playoffs and be ready for those tough teams. But to get to that 11-6 again, man, it's going to be a tough climb. Let's see if the Chargers can do it again. Starting here in week 1, Brazil, the international game. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Me personally, I wouldn't mind so much if it weren't for the fact that, of course, it's going to be a home game. I know a lot of you guys are ticked off about that. Season ticket holders not getting their game at SoFi, which absolutely justifiable. But also in terms of just the football side of it, this is going to be weird, man. It's going to be weird for the Chargers traveling to Brazil. Week 1, a lot of travel this season, overall. But let's not forget, it's going to be weird for the Chiefs too, dude. Like, it goes both ways here. The Chiefs are not immune to it's the weirdness of an international game, week 1. A lot of eyes are going to be on this game, dude. And I think this would be an insanely rare and good opportunity for the Chargers to make a statement. Again, really, really interesting situation unfolding in the AFC West. Lots of powerhouse teams all of a sudden. Of course, you got the Chiefs, you got the Broncos, you got the Chargers. Three teams that are really on the rise, and the Raiders sneakily kind of starting that right now too. There's going to be a shift in the AFC West, and I think a lot of people have predicted the Chargers may end up being that new threat at the top with Jim Harbaugh, as the Chiefs have kind of started their decline. You've seen some regression in key players like Travis Kelce, even some in Patrick Mahomes. Can week 1, the international game in Brazil, with the entire world watching, be the beginnings of that shift in the AFC West? I am here to say, why not, dude? Why not the Chargers? Why not week 1? You know what's reminiscent of? You guys remember that game It was a couple of seasons ago. I was actually on vacation with a bunch of buddies of mine in Vegas, right? We're all at a restaurant watching the kickoff. It was the Chiefs and Lions. And that season, the Lions took down the Chiefs in the season opener with a blueprint very familiar to what the Chargers are building right now. I think it was the Jahmyr Gibbs, either rookie season or follow-up year. They became a really physical football team behind Dan Campbell. The identity of what we know today of the Lions kind of started in that season as a legitimate threat. I think you're going to see something similar in the Chargers this year, man, which is why I got the Bolts shocking the world in week 1. International eyeballs across the entire world watching the Bolts take their first step in taking over the AFC West. Will it happen again later this season? I don't know. But in the first game, with all of the success we've seen in a second-year Jim Harbaugh team, with all of the roster construction that's been built in that direction, with all the success that we've seen so far in the offseason, I think the Chargers are ready to hit the ground running. Omar and Hampton's dangerous. Here's Justin Herbert. Here's the defense. I think it kind of catches the Chiefs off guard in an environment that they're not familiar with as well. I don't know, man. I got a feeling about the season opener. Say what you will about me being a homer and this and that. The rest of the predictions, I think, will speak for that in support of not being too biased. But I have a feeling about this game. I think the Chargers, with the eyes of the world on them, really shock everybody in this game, man. So I got the Chiefs losing this one 20-26. Really quickly, we'll go over more of them in the second matchup here, but some of the key additions like Josh Simmons, Norman Lott, Jalen Rose, we'll go over that again in their second matchup with the Bolts this year. So international game, man, lots of eyes, and I think it's such a great statement opportunity for the Chargers. Here, week 2. Chargers, Raiders, who again, I'm going to say on the rise, a bit of a spoiler here. Result 21-17. I still have the Chargers taking down the Raiders. I think the Raiders still the weakest AFC West team. They ended 4-13 last year with some key additions, right? They got Geno Smith, they got Ashton Janty, they got Jack Besh, who I think is going to be a pretty, a good complement piece to them even in this season. But they got a long ways to go. The Pete Carroll rebuild, which is very reminiscent of what the Chargers have been doing with Jim Harbaugh. They went out and got their running back. They've been building up that offensive line. Defensive line, they brought in Christian Wilkins last season too, right? It kind of feels like they're heading in the same direction, but they got a long ways to climb. In the first season, the Chargers are a really good example of that. We had things that we wanted to do, and running the football, being that Jim Harbaugh team, we just weren't quite there yet in terms of roster construction, talent, this and that, exposure. This season's going to be a much different narrative. The same thing, though, with the Raiders this season. This Pete Carroll thing, I think it's good for them. I think they're going to become a more legitimate threat going forward, but it's a little early to start saying, hey, they've arrived. And I think the Chargers are going to expose that. Geno Smith, Ashton Janty, Max Crosby, and I'm also going to say, obviously Brock Bowers, some of the key players to watch out for versus the Raiders, but I think we can handle them there in week 2. Yes, even at the Roomba Stadium. Next up, week 3, the Denver Broncos, the other AFC West team, which again, you guys saw in the schedule release video, absolutely hilarious. The 3 mansions, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Chiefs. I do think that they are, again, a legitimate threat. Like last season, they ended 10-7. They're building under the identity of Sean Payton. What a division all of a sudden, right? Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid. I do think the Broncos are closer to where the Chargers are, though. They've had the season where some of the structure that they started putting in place last season, it's starting to build up, it's starting to gain some momentum, and they're putting some good pieces together. Some key additions for the Broncos. Jahdae Barron. That's going to be insane, paired up with Pat Surtain. It's going to feel like the no-fly zone from so many seasons ago. That's going to be tough, man. Evan Ingram, another good signing for them. RJ Harvey, I think he could end up being a stud in this situation. Of course, that was a player that we were all watching out for in the draft this year. But some key losses, Javonte Williams, of course, they're moving on from him, going to RJ Harvey, which I think is a great move. Cody Barton, Zach Wilson, if you want to say that. Not too many losses for the Broncos, but definitely a team to watch out for. And I think they may end up catching us off guard early here. I hate to do it, but, it's the Broncos. I think they've gained some momentum. And maybe to offset some of the biased criticism I'm going to get in week 1, I do have the Broncos kind of surprising us in week 3 with the loss. I got the Chargers 21-26. So a narrow loss here, but a really good reflection of what the Chargers are trying to do and what the Broncos are trying to do and what the division's starting to shape up to be. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough go at it for a long time. But I think, beating the Chiefs, even if we do lose to the Broncos, kind of worth, starting off the season 2-1 at that point. But don't worry, the start of the season, even a little bit in the middle of the season, the Chargers got a good opportunity to rack up some wins, just like here in Week 4 versus the New York Giants in New York, I should say, who ended the season last year 3-14. Some of their key additions: Russell Wilson, Abdul Carter. Big pickups, man. Paulson Adebo, great pickup. They drafted really good, too. They got Cam Scatterbo. I know a lot of us loved him. Jackson Dart, who a lot of NFL people seem to really love. He's going to be backing up Russell Wilson, of course. They got a quarterback. As somebody who has Malik Neighbors in their Dynasty Fantasy Football league, very excited to see what he can do with some competent quarterback play, because he went off last season despite, Daniel Jones and a whole bunch of garbage at QB. It's going to be a different Giants. But again, they did have some losses, too. Adoree Jackson, Azeez Ojulari, Chris Hubbard, if you want to say that, too. They got a ways to go. A 3-14 team. They've been more or less up and down for a long time. And the Chargers, I think, at this point, just too experienced to say, hey, we're going to walk in there, we're going to take down the Chargers. No, I think the Chargers are going to have a lot of control in this game. I think this is a great Omari and Hampton opportunity game to really pop off and find that, RB1 kind of rhythm. I really do think it's going to either be in this game or maybe even Week 2 versus the Raiders, where Omar and Hampton kind of finds that big presence as a huge threat in the league as a running back, a top running back in the league. But I do think Week 4 is a great opportunity for him to really rev up, and I'm going to actually reflect that in the score here. The Chargers take him down 26-9, playing control football behind a great effort by Omari and Hampton, and really giving us a window into the future of what we have on that offense. All right. Next up, Week 5, Washington, another great team from last season. 12-5 would be their record in 2024. They made some nice additions in Laramie Tunsil. Deebo Samuel, he's going to be a big one. They went out and traded for him, if I do remember right. He's going to be, I'm going to guess, a centered piece of that offense with Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year last season. Good team. They kind of came out of nowhere. I think they're going to continue to be a very present team when it comes to, playoff caliber units, and it's going to be a tough one for the Chargers, man. Some key losses, though, for the Commanders. Jonathan Allen, Jeremy Chin, Dante Fowler, who I do believe led the team in sacks last season. He was on his way out, too. Nice season for Dante Fowler. But it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun game. You got the Austin Eckler narrative. I don't think Mike Davis is there anymore. But it's going to be a tough one. I got the Chargers in this game losing very narrowly, 20-23, putting us at a record of 3-2. It's going to be a tougher season, a tougher schedule. It's going to be reflected on this. They're a very good football team. I think Jaden Daniels is on the rise here. But you got to even it out at some point. And I think, the Chargers very, very close to taking down some big caliber teams. Already proved it versus the Chiefs in this prediction. Very close taking down the Commanders as well. But let's bounce back now into the Miami Dolphins game in Week 6. This one's at Miami. What's funny, too, is that this schedule is actually lined up to be easier away this season. The Chargers are going to be a dangerous road team, considering that our schedule is actually pretty soft when you consider all the road games. It's the home games that are kind of, a bit of a headache. And I hate to say it, season ticket holders, it's going to be a tough go of it this year. Hopefully the Chargers have that run, right? And we get that Jim Harbaugh momentum and we just run everybody over at SoFi. But the road game certainly a lot softer. As reflected here at Miami, who ended the season 8-9. Some key additions. Kenneth Grant will be reunited with Jim Harbaugh in this game. James Daniels, Jonah Suvainaa, also another offensive lineman picked up in the draft. They're trying to really hit the trenches this season, which absolutely they should do, because it really feels like their season hinges on Tua Tagovailoa and his health. Some key losses for them this year: Javon Holland on his way out, Raheem Mostert, Teron Armstead. Some big losses as well, but really a weird squad, right? A lot. Again, everything kind of hinges on Tua. Is Tua available, number one? Is he good at the moment? Does he have that momentum? We'll have to wait and see. I just think the Chargers would be able to handle him. Again, with the way the Chargers are playing football this year, I think you're going to see a lot of control, and I think you're going to see some good opportunities for the Dolphins to maybe panic and the Chargers to capitalize on it, because we've found a good rhythm. We're consistently driving. Get the Amari and Hampton, fully revved up at this point. I think it's a good prediction. 28-20 is my prediction, or with a record of 4-2 going into now week 7 versus Indianapolis. If you guys are looking for a game, let's say you can only attend 1 or 2 games a year, and you're looking for your best shot at a dub, I think this is one of the ones to try and pick up tickets for. The Indianapolis Colts, some of their key additions this season: Daniel Jones at quarterback, Travarius Ward, a good DB, and of course Tyler Warren, who's going to be a great addition for that team going forward. They are in a pickle, though, right? They have a quarterback identity crisis. They don't know if it's Daniel Jones or even Anthony Richardson at this point, who both, I think, have potential, but it's a long ways from security. They lost some key pieces to their interior offensive line. Will Fry's out. Ryan Kelly out. Longtime center for them. It's going to shake up how successful maybe their run game is. Of course, Jonathan Taylor, being the individual talent he is, maybe the best pro comp from Marion Hampton out there in the league right now, he's really going to have to step up with maybe some shakeups that the offensive line has experienced. Anthony Richardson, Kwity Paye, some good players, but ultimately, again, this team has a ways to go. And I think the Chargers are going to be able to take advantage of that. 23-12. Again, Chargers playing a lot of control football in some of these games. And I think this is one of those games where they're kind of in the driver's seat most of the game. They keep the passing game at bay with Anthony Richardson. They got some good receivers over there, some decent receivers, I should say, Pittman, et cetera, et cetera. But one of those games, I think the Chargers kind of stay in the driver's seat for the majority of it, putting us at a record of 5-2. Next up, Week 8. I'm excited for Week 8, man. I don't know. I kind of knew. When I saw the opponents list, I was like, man, that would be a fun game. And when I saw it on the schedule as a Thursday night primetime football game, I was like, okay, that's the one. I'm going to this football game because this just screams potential for a highlight game of the season, right? It screams like, high scoring, high energy, a good narrative football game. You got, Justin Jefferson, the would-be offensive rookie of the year, versus Justin Herbert, the actual offensive rookie of the year. You got Jim Harbaugh versus his protege at Michigan and J.J. McCarthy. A lot of fun narratives all over this game, but also just both teams know how to score, right? I think it's going to be a high-scoring game of entertaining football game. Sure, a very tough opponent, right? You got the Vikings ending 14-3, but you're going to have to face up and square up with some good football teams in order to be that threat in the postseason. Some of the key additions for the Vikings, we just said with the Colts, right? Will Fry's gone, Ryan Kelly gone. Well, guess where they went? They went to the Vikings, who, again, really attacked the trenches this offseason. They got Will Fry's, Ryan Kelly, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave. Like, holy crap. Like, the offense and defense got some big names. They got Donovan Jackson, too, in the draft. Like, the Vikings, they're building the right way, but they did have some key losses. Sam Darnold, Cam Robinson, Garrett Bradbury. It's going to be a huge opportunity for J.J. McCarthy to take this team and run with it. But again, it all kind of hinges on whether McCarthy is ready and if he's the real deal. I know Jim Harbaugh will tell you every day of the week that he is the real deal, but let's see if the Chargers can take advantage of that. Key players: Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, Byron Murphy. Let's see what we can do in this game, man. I got this one being a high-flying game, a very fun football game. Ultimately one that the Chargers prove to be a capable team versus capable team in this season. I got the Chargers winning this one 37-31, one of the higher scoring games of the season, period, and one of the funner ones to experience, period. This is going to be a really good one, man. I'm very excited to attend that one in person. Next up, Week 9, follow-up. The Chargers at Tennessee Titans, the team that held the number 1 overall pick in the draft this year. Yeah, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. This team has got a long ways to go. Good start, right? They finally got themselves a quarterback after so long. Key additions, obviously, being Cam Ward. They picked up, Tyler Lockett, Dan Moore, pretty decent offensive line signing. But they did have some losses. Harold Landry, Nick Westbrook-Akine. As a lot of you guys remember, he kind of had a breakout season last year. Kind of crazy that they let him go. And even Kenneth Murray. Some of you guys will laugh at that, but Kenneth Murray I think he led their team in tackles this year, which, that's worth something. But ultimately, the guys to pay attention to: Cam Ward, Calvin Ridley, Jeffrey Simmons. They got a ways to go. They're a fresh team with a fresh quarterback. They got some pieces that they still need to add. I got the Chargers handling them 31-16. Still has that juice from last week, right? Where versus the Vikings, they put up a ton of points. Unfortunately for the Tennessee Titans, they just never can find pace, even with Cam Ward. And it'll be a record of 7-2 going into Week 10 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You guys want to see some OCD at play here? We're going to take that out and put the verses in and move the verses in place right there. Boom! Now we have an accurate graphic. The Steelers, who can't decide if they're a contender or pretender, every single season, or a rebuild like we saw in the schedule video. They had a lot of moving pieces this season, man. And this is one of those games where I don't have all the information yet. Right now, I'm going to assume that the Steelers' starting quarterback is going to be Aaron Rodgers. And if that's the case, you got a different looking Steelers on your hands right now, right? Some of the key additions, DK Metcalf, Derek Harmon, great pickup, Caleb Johnson, one of my favorite running backs in the draft, and of course, hopefully, Aaron Rodgers, which would give him some, at least a little bit of stability at quarterback, keep them in that, window that they've been in for so long where it's like, I guess, but man, they got the pieces around Aaron Rodgers to be really, really good. But they did have some key losses. Najee Harris, who ended up coming to the Chargers, George Pickens to the Cowboys, Russell Wilson to the Giants. It's a lot, again, hinges on the success of their quarterback position because they got TJ Watt, they got DK Metcalf, they got Patrick Queen, some good Minka Fitzpatrick, some good pieces on defense. But who's their quarterback? Right now, I'm assuming it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, but we'll have to wait and see. It's one of those tough teams where, again, you're going to see a very similar, biography of team, a similar build of team where they're very tough, they're very run-oriented. Jalen Warren is another player to keep in mind. I think there's a good shot that Caleb Johnson's taking a good amount of reps at this point, considering he's a very close player to Najee Harris, who they used, over and over again last season. But it's one of those games where, again, tough game. It's maybe a lower scoring game. 13-17 is what I got, putting us at a record of 7-3. But a game that I would love to see the Chargers win. Again, I want them to face against more decent teams that have really good foundations and find a way to win anyway. This is one of the first. I think this was the first game I went to at SoFi. Was versus the Steelers back when Big Ben was the quarterback, and that was one of the funnest games I've ever been. The Chargers won that game. Can they do it again here at SoFi? We'll have to wait and see. Right now, 7-3 though. Again. To reiterate, I should say, if the Steelers are going into the season with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback, wipe that away. It's an automatic win for the Chargers. They would be 8-2 at that point, but just kind of keep that in mind. Going into Week 11 at Jacksonville, everybody's got a narrative about this one, right? The Chargers, last time we met, it was an embarrassing loss. AFC, or I should say, was it the wild card game? I don't remember. A playoff game. We were winning. We lost it. Terrible narrative that's been haunting us for a while. Is it time to put that to bed? I think it is. The Jaguars last season went Ed Ford in 13. They made some awesome additions. Travis Hunter, generational talent. Diami Brown, Caleb Ransaw, but it's all Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be the biggest impact player on that team for sure. Had some key losses, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Brandon Sheriff. Definitely some pieces of that offense that are going to be missed, but that wide receiver room is so stacked, man. Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, then insert name here, doesn't even matter. Those are two great wide receivers for Trevor Lawrence to be throwing to going into the future, and it's one that, they may gain some momentum in the seasons to come with those building blocks, but they are still a ways away before I think they're separating themselves from that 4-13 record last season. I got a prediction of Chargers maybe finding some revenge narrative deep down at a 33-24 score, putting us at 8-3 at this point in the year, which again, 8-3 is awesome. We're going to need some momentum, man. It's going to be tough. This next stretch of games gets kind of tough, which is why the bye week is in such a great place for the Chargers this season at week 12. We're going to need it. We're going to need to regroup. We're going to need to heal up and rest up and get ready for the stretch of games that's to come, because it's going to be a tough close to the season, which ultimately I think the Chargers need. They need tough opponents. They need tough matchups so that when they get to the postseason, hopefully they're more prepared for postseason caliber teams at that point, like the Houston Texans, who we are facing in the later half of the schedule. Let's move on to week 13. Let's ease back in after the bye week, right? One game to kind of ease in. The Raiders, which, like I said before, let's not write them off. They got a nice, building block piece or whatever. They're moving in the right direction. Pete Carroll, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, even, Geno Smith at this point. A much improved Raiders from last season, but again, I don't think they're there yet. I think they're going to take a couple of seasons to really get that footing underneath them, kind of like the Chargers. Even the Broncos, right? Even the Sean Payton, it took a couple seasons for them to grab some momentum too. And I got the Chargers definitely sweeping the Raiders this season. Chargers 28 to Raiders 19, putting us at a record of 9-3 before some of the big boys hit this schedule. Starting here with week 14. Chargers versus Philadelphia Eagles. Brutal home schedule, man. Brutal home schedule. And a brutal logo. One of the only left-facing logos in the NFL. Thanks a lot, Eagles, covering the face of Jim Harbaugh. Absolutely obliterating my OCD. some key additions if it matters for the Eagles. John Campbell, one of the best, players. They almost traded up with us to get him. Kenyon Green, Aziz Ojulari. They got some great people. They lost some pieces too. Mekhi Becton, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, CJ Gardner-Johnson. But ultimately, they got all the pieces of still being a very dangerous Super Bowl contender. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. That offense is ridiculous. The defensive line, the offensive line, ridiculous. That team is absolutely stacked. I don't think it's to anybody's shock that I got the Chargers losing this one 24-31. Putting up a good fight, right? Put up a good fight. The Super Bowl victors of last season, Chargers still kept it within one score. But ultimately, it's the Eagles. It's the Eagles. Let's move on to here, Week 15. We'll talk a little bit here about the additions as we didn't cover it in the first go-around. Key additions for the Chiefs this season, Josh Simmons, who's having some character issues already being described. I don't know, man, what that spells for his rookie season. I was more concerned about his injury status. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Amar Norman Lott, who I did like in the draft, and Jalen Royals, who I also really thought was great, value for the Chiefs in round 3. So they got some nice pieces in the draft, but ultimately they got more holes, I think, to address on the offensive line. Joe Thuney, who was traded to the Bears for some reason, I think their best offensive lineman outside of Reed Humphrey, maybe. Joe Thuney, great player. He's made his way out. Justin Reed, another great player, had his way out. DeAndre Hopkins keeping that wide receiver room nice and unpredictable. It's going to be an interesting season for the Chiefs. The Chargers had already opened up the season with a win versus them. Can they sweep the Chiefs for the first time in absolutely forever? Playing at Arrowhead here in Week 15. I'm going to say no. I think the Chargers lose this one 30-34. Very, very close, but really, really opens up the narrative for the Chargers as the new AFC West threat. Of course, they win the first game, narrowly lose the second game, but maybe by this point the Chiefs have given us a record, closer to down to earth than we're used to in Kansas City. But great season, I would say. If the Chargers can open up the season with the win, even if we do lose at Arrowhead, I really do think it puts us in play to maybe even take the West this season. Moving on to Week 16, Dallas Cowboys, who would end the season last year, was at 7-10. Another one of those weird teams, man. I don't know what to think about the Cowboys. They got all the pieces. Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb. They got, studs all over the roster, so what's the issue? Is it ownership? Is it coaching? I don't know. 7-10 was definitely a weird year for them. Was Dak Prescott hurt last year? I don't remember. Either way, Cowboys will be a difficult team. They got some nice talent all around. They picked up George Pickens, Javonte Williams, who may be RB1 for them this year. Don't forget, they also drafted Jadon Blue, who's one of my favorite prospects in the draft in terms of running back. I think they had a sneakily good draft. A lot of people were giving crap about Tyler Booker being their first-round selection. Dude, you just lost Zach Martin, right? One of the best guards of all time. Tyler Booker was a player that a lot of Chargers fans were kind of hoping we would get, a little bit later. Obviously, it was a lot sooner for the Cowboys, but I think you guys ended up getting the best guard in the draft. And I think this is the right way, right mindset of building. They also got Donovan Ezra-Rock, who is a great prospect. They're one to kind of watch out for this season, but again, I don't know quite where they are yet. They lost to Marcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, Eric Kendricks, who a lot of people will scoff at, but again, he had like 120 tackles or something ridiculous. Cowboys will be interesting. I still think the Chargers, despite all that star power, will be able to take control. That's a big part of this football team's identity, is taking control and keeping it, right? Controlling the clock. Very present, dominant run game. I think they're going to end up being successful in that, which is why I have the Chargers winning this one 25-16. They keep it kind of close. But at the end of the day, I think the Chargers, by this point of the season, will be a very, very dangerous run team. I don't know if the Cowboys are equipped to stop that, and I think it kind of keeps us in the driver's seat for a majority of that matchup. So I got the Chargers winning that one, putting us at 10-5. Here comes the matchup. Is that right? 10-5, 11-5. I think I messed up all the records at the end here, man, but we'll just kind of run with it. We got the Houston Texans revenge game. CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Danielle Hunter being the ones to look out for. Some key additions: Ed Ingram, Jaden Higgins, Cam Robinson. They had a weird thing this season where they kind of swapped out offensive linemen. I think it was a money move. Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green, Stephon Diggs on their way out too. But they did add, Ed Ingram, Cam Robinson. We'll have to kind of wait and see how that unfolds. But they still have some really nice key players. CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Danielle Hunter. Don't forget about Will Anderson either, man. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter was one of the most dangerous pass rushing duos in the league last season. They had a crazy amount of sacks, combined. But this is a narrative game for the Chargers, right? This is the game that bumped us out of the playoffs. A lot of Chargers fans were devastated in this game, and ultimately it was one of the worst games in Justin Herbert's career. Great opportunity to flip the narrative here. And I think we're more than capable of doing so, especially at home. I got the Chargers narrowly winning this one, 30-27, but you got to prove you can beat a good team. The 10-7 Texans last season won a playoff game. Time for the Chargers to put up versus a particularly good squad. All right. Then lastly, Week 18, which I think all the wins add up correctly. We should end at 11-6 here. I got the Chargers actually closing out the season. They lost earlier to the Broncos. Early in the season, the Broncos hit the ground running as well, maybe threw the Chargers off a little bit. But I think the momentum that the Chargers have at this point, having beat the Cowboys, having beat the Texans, kept it close versus the Chiefs, I think they do find a way to go into Mile High and take them down, despite, again, what I'm going to assume is going to be a really good season for the Broncos. So I got this season for the Chargers ultimately ending at 11-6, putting us at the second in the AFC West, 5th seed. There's a chance the Chargers maybe even take, the AFC West as a whole, too, considering, what happens with the Kansas City Chiefs. We did get that one win versus them in this prediction. But ultimately, I think it's a really successful year. Like I said at the top of the video, last season's 11-6. You can maybe credit the schedule, the strength of schedule last year. It was a much softer schedule than it is this season. This 11-6 isn't made equal to the 11-6 last year, man. This 11-6, hard-earned, tough, steep climb, preparing this team to face playoff caliber teams in the postseason. Much different 11-6 this year than it would be last year, and I think it's a really, really good spot to aim for if you want to be that contender in the postseason. I honestly think that the Chargers, in the second year of Jim Harbaugh, might even be more dangerous than an 11-6 team. I think a 12 or 13 win season isn't out of the realm of possibilities at all, considering, maybe some narrow losses here and there in this prediction video. And maybe, they do take full control over the West and find a way to sweep even the Chiefs would be unbelievable. But I think 11-6, this is where I kind of felt good. Right, nice middle ground where we don't go too crazy, but we still feel confident in the follow-up year with Jim Harbaugh, with all the pieces that we've added to the roster. It feels like a good opportunity to put that stamp as a legitimate threat in the AFC West. And I think it's going to be a really fun season for the Chargers to consider themselves legitimate contenders by the end of the season. You're going to see some players pop off on this team. And Omar Hampton's going to be a star by the end of the year. You may see Trey Harris pop. You may see, some nice defensive players emerge. Maybe some dark horses like we saw last year. Jackson may end up being that DB to watch out for. You never know with this team. And I think that's the fun of it with the Jim Harbaugh team. Put your feet up, relax, and trust the process. I think Jim Harbaugh's good hands to be in if you're a Chargers fan. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, whether or not you agree, disagree with some of my selections here. But I think 11-6 is a great place to aim for. And I think the Chargers are going to really prove to be a fun football team to watch next season that really likes to take control of football games and never let go. We'll catch you guys next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty. Give me that win in week 1, man. That'd be so hype.